So you make a 7-8 hour drive from the south of France to the north of France, ending your vacation, thinking it'll be a nice quiet day. I'll go to my hotel room and check and see if there were any notes from Jets practice to discuss today. And just like that, Haason Reddick demands a trade. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. I am expected to be joined momentarily by my good friend Dylan Terraman. Just yesterday, not 24 hours ago, well, maybe 27, sometime yesterday, I put a story on the front page of Jet Nation saying this Haason Reddick situation, that Haason Reddick is in a difficult spot. And why is that? Well, as I've said in recent shows and reiterated in the article I wrote yesterday, Haason Reddick, to me, and it would appear the Jets are sort of on the same page, is icing on the cake for their defense. That's the term I've used before, cherry on top, whatever you want to call it. The Jets defense with Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams, Will McDonald, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Michael Carter, they have enough pieces on this defense to be very good with or without Haason Reddick. But Haason Reddick is so good that he will bring them up a level. So let's say you want to say the Jets defense without Haason Reddick will be top 10. Well, as long as Aaron Rodgers stays on the field, knock on wood, that's good enough to do some damage and make it to the playoffs. With Haason Reddick, let's say they're top 5, top 3 even. Okay, that's the preferable. That's the desirable situation for the Jets to be in. But if you're a player holding out, and this is what I said yesterday in that article that I wrote, the whole point of a holdout, obviously the point is to get more money. We know that. But holding out is supposed to make the team you're supposed to be playing for. It's supposed to make them watch the team play or practice, whatever. And they're supposed to say, man, we're going to be in trouble without that guy. We need to get him in here. And it puts pressure on them, and they cave and they give you what you want. But Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, they're probably sitting back and going, Quinnen, JJ, McDonald, perhaps Kinlaw, who's added 1 million pounds of muscle. And, there are other guys like Watts and all, but, he's enough. But they may feel there's other guys on this D-line who can contribute. But they have enough there to be very good without Haason Reddick. A holdout is supposed to be a guy saying, they're going to realize that without me, they can't win. And the Jets aren't going to come to that realization. Now, listen, again, knock on wood, they got to stay healthy for this to be the case. 1 or 2 injuries and everything changes. But as it stands right now, and let's see, GM Island Empire, how are we doing? I haven't seen you in a while, buddy. It's a leverage business, but if he doesn't want to be here, let him go and trade him. Guy holds out and return 85%. Well, okay, so 2 parts to that. 1, Joe Douglas responded within minutes of the Reddick trade demand becoming public knowledge. Don't have the glasses on. Let's see. Joe Douglas said, this is direct from Joe Douglas, the Jets official Twitter. We have informed Haason that we will not trade him, that he is expected to be here with his teammates, and that he will continue to be fined per the CBA if he does not report. Since the trade discussions back in March, we have been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here as we prepare for the regular season. So the Jets, and we've talked about this, right? Connor Hughes, weeks ago, put out a comment about what was going on between the Jets and Reddick, and it read, that Connor Hughes tweet, and I don't say this, and I say this every time. I'm not saying this to bash Connor. I think Connor does a nice job. But it read as if someone from the Jets themselves typed it up. It was 100% an accurate quote from a Jets source who basically said, all right, Connor, here's what we want our fans to know. And what we want them to know is, and it basically said, at the time of the negotiations, they offered Haason Reddick a pay raise. He said no because it wasn't enough. And they then said, okay, well, then come into camp, prove your worth, and we'll talk about an extension during the season. Haason Reddick apparently agreed to that at the time, has since backed off of that. And now Reddick is not willing to come into camp. Obviously, he's on day 21. Fines are over $1 million, $50,000 a day that cannot be wiped out per CBA rules. And it may be getting to the point now where it's so high that it's not an amount he can just say, well, kick that into the new deal and give me that money back. Because guys always want the money back, and teams often accommodate. But if you're letting it get into the millions on a sort of bitter dispute, you're going to have a hard time getting a team to kick that back in. So this was the point I made yesterday, was that Reddick, at some point, he's got to realize he doesn't have leverage. And my thing is, and listen, I'm not in Haason Reddick's head. I'm not in his camp. I don't know what his people are telling him. I don't know if this is Haason Reddick acting on his own. I mean, I would guess, my best guess is Haason Reddick is acting on the advice of his agents or whoever his reps are, his people, his inner circle. Someone is telling him, here's what you're worth. And he's right. Here's the thing with Haason Reddick. He's not wrong in the fact that for the position he plays and the production he provides, he is worth way more than what he's making on the open market. The problem is he's not on the open market. He still has a deal. And the Jets are willing to rework that deal if they'll show up. This is just a very weird thing. One side is basically saying, show up, play a little bit, let us see what you can do in our system, and we'll talk new contract. And his side is saying, we're not coming in without a new contract. Okay, well, if that's the case, we're the Jets. We've got pass rushers. We're going to get to the quarterback. So we'll just sit and wait. And we know you're not going to give up a vested year. You're not going to sit out an entire season because then you will belong, your rights as a player will belong to the Jets again next year, and we're back to square one, and you've lost a year of income, and you've lost a year of production. So he's right now, and let's see how we do in Clifford. He says Reddick is the one negative thing hanging up over a positive camp. This group of players seem not to have egos that disrupt the team. They do. And listen, this is the thing, though. If this is a couple of years from now, is that going to be the situation with Sauce and Garrett and Breed? Like, these guys want to get paid. Everybody wants to get paid. There's not a player in the NFL that doesn't want to get paid. So he's just a guy he happens to be the guy who's on the last year of his deal. None of the other guys with big contracts are in the last year of the deal. Not sure how he recovers from his teammates. JD knows what he's doing. If it were me, I'd trade him. So a few things here. They're not going to trade him. He has too much value to them because I would imagine when you look at what the Jets gave up to get him, a future, a third, 2 years from now, that's a pretty cheap price for a guy who does what Reddick does. So if Philly was willing to take that, that tells me they were shopping him and there weren't a lot of great offers. So now that could change after this year because, as I said earlier on the forums of Jet Nation, after the year, teams reassess needs, cap space opens up because contracts expire. So maybe you could deal him next year, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get him to play this year. And I think it's going to happen. He's not going to sit out the entire year and still be a Jet when he wakes up at the start of next year. That would be truly shooting himself in the foot. As I said, you're losing a year of income, and you're not any better off for it. So he can want the deal, he can demand the deal. And look, if some team decided tomorrow, you know what, maybe we do want Haason Reddick for the price he's asking because we have no pass rushers, or we feel like he's a guy that puts us over the top. Look, if somebody calls and makes you a great offer, trade him. Fine. But as it stands, you have no reason to believe that there were any great offers for him a couple of months ago. And you have no reason to see why the Jets would want to deal him. So I don't think the Jets are anxious to make a deal. Joe Douglas has made that clear. That was another thing that Connor Hughes had reported a couple of months ago, was that the Jets were not interested at all in trading Reddick. And listen, the Jets, this isn't just about adding a high-level player to key position. This is a team trying to win a Super Bowl, and they feel like the window is open. Like, the time is now to win a ring. That's why I don't think you're going to see them deal him. And people, look, I see people, Joe Douglas, why didn't you just sign Huff? Huff, for the way this team runs their defense, Huff was always going to be very much a part-time player who doesn't play the run as well as Reddick does. So you were going to get a guy who you paying premium money to be a part-time guy. And again, in this rotation, everyone's a part-time guy. But Reddick is certainly able and will play more snaps than Huff did. at a higher level. Even Philly, who brought Huff in, saw one of their coaches a couple weeks ago talking about him, saying he's not where we need him to be. He's not a guy who can play the run the way we need him to play the run. And he's not a rookie. I'm in the league for a little while. And you still have coaches saying he's not as good against the run as we need him to be. So I don't see, again, for anyone saying this is such a huge fail, why didn't you just bring Huff back? You didn't bring Huff back because you don't believe he can be an all-around player. And if you're going to pay that kind of money to a guy, he better be an all-around player. Clifford says, damage is done. I don't see how he faces his teammates. Again, his teammates don't care. His teammates won't get paid. Every single player in the NFL wants to get paid, and they want their teammates to get paid. Because when everyone gets paid, as the water rises, the boat rises. Everybody goes up. So they want big, fat paydays for everybody. Strong enough at edge with JJ and Will McDonald, and that's what I feel like. I feel like you have enough at edge. And again, I mentioned the secondary earlier, especially the corners. You don't have to be an elite edge guy to make some plays. Clifford says he's already paid. Yeah, but he's paid about half of what other guys. You look at we've all seen the graphics by now, I'm sure. Look at the top 5 players over the past 4 years in sacks, and they're all making 25 million plus. And Reddick is 4th on that list, and he's making 15. And this is the way I explained it in the past, because people always say, you're making 15 million a year, how can you complain? And I understand that. Listen, I'm a working class guy. I'm sure everybody watching this, or the vast majority, working class, regular people just getting by. But NFL athletes are not that. NFL athletes are millionaires, and they want more and more millions. So when you're looking at your peers, the same guys who play the same position with the same production, and you're looking at their money and they're making 25, 30, and you're making 15, you don't see it as I'm making 15 a year. You're looking at that and you're going, why am I losing 10 million a year? Why am I sacrificing 15 million a year? Why is it every guy who's in my tier of production in terms of getting to the quarterback, why is every single guy making 10 to 15 million dollars more than me? So listen, me and everybody watching this, if we got a job tomorrow making 15 million a year, we may never say another word for the rest of our lives to the people we work for. Just shut up and let that money keep rolling in. But these guys don't live in our world. These are guys who are worth millions. They've already made millions, and they know from looking around the league what they should be getting paid. And Haason Reddick knows that based on his production, he should be a 25 million a year plus guy. Even if it's 22, whatever it is, it's a whole lot more than 14 or 15, which is what he's due to make. And now with the money he's going to lose from the fines, that's an even bigger deal. So Haason Reddick has no leverage. He's been acquired by a team that can win with or without him. That doesn't mean he doesn't make them better. It just means they're already good before he shows up. So they want, and the Jets know you're not going to give up a year of eligibility, or you're not going to give up a vested year. Let's say he signed a contract to be honored, different situation. We can say that about everybody though, Clifford, right? I mean, I've kind of stopped saying that. In a perfect world, yes, guys would honor the contracts they sign, but we've seen time and time again that's just not what the league is about. Guys sign for what they think they're worth today, and God forbid 2 or 3 years later in a 5-year deal, they're far outperforming that contract, or we see that position group see a dramatic increase in their average pay per year. Then they start looking at it, instead of I should be grateful for what I make, it becomes I'm going to be angry for what I'm not making. And again, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying we've seen it enough times now with enough players to know signing the deal doesn't mean a whole lot to a lot of guys. Now there is that point you make there is a good one. Seems like he agreed to come here for a chance to win. I mean, I think that was the one criticism that I'm seeing of Joe Douglas that I disagree with, because again, Douglas he did roll the dice a little bit. He's trying to win a Super Bowl. But you brought a guy in who you spoke to beforehand, and he agreed, yes, I will come in and show you that I can play in your system, and then we can talk about a new deal. And Joe Douglas said, okay, great, pull the trigger on the deal, and then the guy changes his mind. And people say, and I've seen people say it, and I say this to people sometimes. when people take quotes and comments and reports, at face value and accept them for what they are, sometimes stuff is, to me, a little bit questionable, a little bit, yeah, I'm not sure I believe that. But in this particular case, with what was reported by Connor Hughes and others have sort of hopped on the bandwagon since then, saying that he agreed to come in and play under his current deal, I believe that because A, I don't believe the Jets would have made the deal if that wasn't the case, and B, I don't believe the Jets would say that publicly, or they've not said. I don't believe they would feed that to a reporter to put it out there in the world if it wasn't true. Because if that Haason Reddick, I believe, if that report wasn't true, he would have asked for a trade then. And that was weeks ago that report came out. If you're an elite player, especially an elite player at a premium position, and you have no loyalty to a team because you've just been acquired, and they put a report out lying about you, lying about what you told them before the deal, you'd be like, get me the hell out of here. I have no loyalty to these guys, and I'm not even in the building yet, and they're lying. So that's why I tend to believe the Jets on this. And it's been repeated several times, and not once have we seen Reddick or his camp deny that. Even today, in demanding the trade demand did not say the Jets have lied publicly about what was agreed upon, and I don't like that, so I want out. None of that. So we've not seen it refuted, argued, spoken up against, not one time from Reddick or his camp. And again, it would just make so little sense. It would be to call it a minor league move would be speaking too highly of it. And listen, I'm the first one to bash the Jets when they do stuff that just doesn't meet the mark. But no NFL team is going to come out and leak the fact that the guy agreed to come there if he hadn't. So I fully believe Reddick agreed to it, and then either him or his camp, somebody in his camp, said, you know what, let's change this up. I know we told the Jets we're going to come in, but let's not. So Reddick, not there. The Jets kind of just going to wait it out because, like I said, he's not sitting out the year. So I'm not mad at Joe Douglas because he rolled the dice, clarified a situation with a player that the player then changed his mind. Nothing you can do about that. Joe Douglas is caving and giving him a ton of money, and he kind of can't. Everyone likes to say the salary cap isn't real. The Jets have about $5 million in salary cap. They're in no position to give Haason Reddick $30 million when he's due $15, when they've got Sauce, Garrett, JJ, Brees, all these guys coming up. It's the amount of money they're going to have in the next year or two for these guys. Another comment here from Clifford. JD looks like he will not be pushed around. Perception will be that he no longer do the Jets get pushed around, and I think it's a win for us. Again, I don't disagree, Clifford, but there are a lot of people who do. I've seen a lot of folks, typical Joe Douglas move. Joe Douglas is an idiot. Why'd he do this? Typical Joe Douglas production. Look, he made an agreement to make a deal. He clarified with the player that he'd be in camp. Player lied. There's nothing you can do about that. And as I've said before, I said this on the show the other day. I said it in the conversation I had with somebody a couple weeks ago or a week or so ago. Haason Reddick hasn't missed a snap yet. Now, there is some risk. We've discussed this. Anytime a guy holds out, misses all of camp, or at least this much of camp, and comes in, maybe he tries to do too much too soon, gets himself injured. That's a whole other. Let's hope that's a situation we're not talking about in the coming weeks, because they really got to get this team ready to go, which I believe they're doing. Clifford, no problem. Thanks for chiming in. But we'll wrap this one up. Dylan didn't make it in. Was hoping to get his thoughts on this. I'm just going to double check really quick and see if his arrival is imminent. In which case, we will hang around for a couple more minutes just to get his thoughts. And yeah, so it looks like he didn't get the message. He was, I believe, Dylan was driving home. He said he would try to hop on. Thought he'd be home in a few minutes. Anyway, that'll wrap this one up. Haason Reddick wants out. The Jets say, you're not going anywhere. I believe him. I don't think anyone's going to call him, blow him away with an offer. He will show up eventually because he's not going to lose the vested year. And that's pretty much it. Have a good one, Jets fans. We will catch you in a couple days. Myself, Dylan, Chris Schubert, I think he may still be on his. summer vacation. Not 100% sure. But either way, we'll be back with you in a couple days. Have a good one, Jets fans.